Hello, my name is Conrad, and this is the presentation for Dissertation for the visual effects in Unity. That's the project review. So why have I chosen this project? The visual effects in Unity is something that I want to do in the future, but I have not yet fully explored. Additionally, I'll understand the process of creating the VFX a bit more, so I'll be able to apply this skill to other projects. The first VFX that I've made was the fire. It is little stylized flame with light, which you can see just here. The effect has been achieved by combining 4 different layers. The first layer is just the color, and you can see the particles that I've made in Photoshop on the bottom. The next layer is the additive, which creates a brighter spot in the flame in the middle. Then there is the glow, which also works very similarly, as well as the particles, which also help to further enhance the effect. And here is a small comparison of how each of them influence the actual result. This effect has been achieved by using a particle system and some lights, and I'm quite happy with how it turned out. Black hole visual effect. Here is a visual effect of a black hole that I created using a tutorial, and I'm very happy how it turned out. I've learned quite a lot doing it, to be honest, and started understanding the basics of the shader graph. And this is the shader graph for the effect. Basically how it works is there is a rotate node and a twirl node, which are plugged into the simple noise, and then that basically makes a swirl and rotates the distortion. So basically the way it works is the screen projection is combined with the simple noise, and basically that creates a distortion, which can be seen here. By the way, this effect also consists of multiple layers, and there is a sphere, there is the distortion ring, there is the rings, the colorful rings in the middle, and there is also particles floating around. Here you can see the Fresnel effect, which creates the glow inside the sphere. And because the parameter is exposed, I can easily change the intensity here and preview the effect. Here you can see the particles that are being used, but also the rings that add a lot of motion to the effect. And here you can see the Photoshop file of the swirl. I'm very happy how it turned out, and it's smoothly fading in and fading out to further enhance the effect. And once again, here's the final result. I'm quite happy how it turned out, and I learned a lot during the process. After I was finished with this one, I decided to do something of very similar theme, which is a portal. Here you can see the result. That's the final result. I'm very happy how it turned out. To get the vortex effect in the middle, I've used the shader graph. This was quite simple to create, as it was basically making a twirl node and multiplying it with a noise and multiplying it with time, which basically animated the swirl, the vortex in the middle. For the rest of the portal, I've used the visual effect graph, which calculates everything on the GPU. Each of the vertical strips is basically a different part of the portal. So there are particles, circle, flash, burst, shockwave, circle breathing effect, pre-shockwave circles, anticipation, and the swirl. Fire trail visual effect, which is incomplete. Here is the effect. It was meant to be used for something like a fireball or something similar, basically a projectile. And here's the shader graph for it, which basically is scrolling noise texture with dissolve at the end, which creates the effect. And the trail can be seen in the top right corner. Water shader. Here you can see the effect of the water shader that I've made using also a tutorial. It has small waves and light refraction. Additionally, there is a small foam that forms next to edges of any object, which adds to the effect. Here's the shader graph for it. It was a bit more challenging than the previous ones, but it was using the same principle. So basically animating something with time node. The only challenging part was creating the foam around the edges, as it required the camera position to be involved and the object position that touches the water. Here you can basically see how the waves are formed as well as the refraction. And over here you can see the foam forming around the edges of the objects. Once again, here's the final results. I'm quite happy with it, although it seems a bit basic for me, so I'll try to expand on that. The next step that I'll take will be probably creating a displacement map for it to move the vertices around to create more realistic waves. My plans for the project. I have recently acquired a book called the Unity Shader Bible, and it contains a lot of very useful information on creating shaders, both coding it and using the shader graph. So I'll be trying to include the process of using this book into my daily routine and try to learn something new, especially the coding stuff, coding part of the of creating shaders. And here are some tutorials that I'll be planning to use to practice with visual effects. I'll definitely have another go at creating projectiles and different spells. So something like this dragon breath. I will also try to make a stuff with geometry. So like this warrior, for example, has each of the hexagons separate, so they basically can create a breathing effect. Additionally, stuff like that, so like a slash or something that also creates a trail on the ground behind it. Some shaders for the liquids, whether it's something like this or some potions, which can simulate or actually calculate the liquid inside, which I could use for many different projects. These crystal glowing effect, which looks really cool, and I'd like to try something like that. And I'll be planning to buy this course on Udemy, which goes through creating the skills for the player, for the character. And I think this would be a great source to learn new things about creating shaders and creating visual effects in general. It has 4 different parts of the course, which is essentially 4 different spell creations, and I think that'll be great for learning new things and exploring the actual Unity systems, which would help me to progress even further and learn new stuff. Additionally, I made up my mind about the project, so the final product. So I've decided that I'll create a game. I'll have a few different levels to showcase different themes for the visual effects. So like a sci-fi mini game and then like a fantasy mini game and stuff like that. So the game will be linear and each level will have different theme to keep it a bit more consistent visually. So I'll keep creating shaders and visual effects to still practice and improve. But in the end, I'll have a final product, which will be a game consisting of few levels with different visual effects to showcase the work. Thank you for watching.